And welcome back. It's time for another edition of our book club here on Unscripted. And joining me now from the Springfield Greene County Library is Morgan Shannon. So good to see you again, friend. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm always excited to see what you brought in. So you start wherever you want and tell me about the book.
Okay. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Woman by Kristin Hannah. This is a historical fiction set in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. It follows a woman named Frankie who grew up in Southern California in a family surrounded by military tradition. So all of the men in her family have served and are veterans. And Frankie is someone who's always followed the rules, lived by the book, until her brother goes off to Vietnam. And she shocks everyone, including herself, by enlisting as an Army nurse.
Wow.
So she goes over there, and she quickly realizes she's in over her head, but also so is everyone else around her.
Sure.
Her days are intense, chaotic. They're filled with heartbreak, but also full of a lot of hope, and she forms some really beautiful bonds with the people around her that she's living life with over there. Until she comes back to America, and she comes back to a country that's angry and divided about the war and kind of ready to move on. And also because she's a woman and wasn't a soldier, she's not recognized as a veteran. So a lot of the same resources for rehabilitation and recovery and kind of just processing what she experienced over there aren't available to her. And so she is kind of trying to find her place in a world where she doesn't feel like she belongs and realizes that the fight she thought she left isn't quite over.
Oh my gosh, so many different things to pull out here. But one thing that I am curious on, with so much military context to it, do you feel like that you have to have a military understanding or maybe even background to understand kind of the plot or certain things that are happening within the book?
Not at all. Kristin Hannah writes a lot of historical fiction and does a really great job of researching and explaining. I didn't really have any military context going into it. It's not something that I think about very often because I don't have to. I don't have a lot of family that were in that environment, and I learned so much through this book. It was very insightful and really enjoyed it.
Well, speaking of learning, I feel like this main character is so strong and there's so much to take from her, especially in today's world. So what do you think people will learn from her without maybe giving anything away as they kind of read through the book and get to know her?
I mean, you see her navigate so much in the book, and sometimes she doesn't navigate it super well, but she manages to kind of come up on top. And so I think it is encouraging for people to see you can go through hard things and navigate it and learn from it.
A message of hope, ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do The Wager next. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, so The Wager is a nonfiction book. It's set in the 1700s. Kind of follows towards the end about a crew of 30 emaciated men that wash up on the shore of Brazil. And these guys are survivors of a British warship that had wrecked off the coast of Patagonia during a secret mission to capture Spanish treasure.
Casual.
But what's crazy, so like a few years later, another group from the same shipwreck shows up off of the coast of Chile. And so this Brazil crew, this initial crew that showed up, they are viewed as heroes, survivors, but when the second crew shows up, they tell a very different version of events of what went down, because after they wreck, they end up on this island for a long time, and they tell this tale of mutiny and murder and chaos and a lot of fingers pointed towards each other and what kind of led to the shipwreck and what went down on the island. And the British naval launches a court-martial to figure out what went on and what happened. And for a lot of these men, it's life and death. What comes from this court-martial, they're facing death from what happened. And so it's a real life tale of shipwreck, survival, and what kind of happens when order breaks down. It's really interesting.
It is interesting. There's so much to pull from that as well. But what's maybe your favorite piece about this book, once again, without giving anything away?
Something about, I don't know what it is, something about like stories set at sea and stories about sailors, specifically nonfiction books. It's a genre that I've gotten into recently, like a very subgenre,
We're all
very
on our
niche
own journey.
thing. Thank you. Something about it is so interesting. Obviously, it's so different than I live in Missouri, a landlocked state. We're not around the sea. But it's crazy to read these real tales of people that have endured so much, because living on a ship at sea is insane. They go through so much with the environment around them and animals and marine life and sickness, and it's really interesting.
Well, and like you said, I think not only is it geographically where we live, but also there's just so much mystery surrounding the sea in general that I think it's we're always wanting to know a little bit more because we just don't know a lot,
Exactly.
Okay, tell me about the last one you brought in.
Okay, so the last one, The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a mystery set in the 1970s. So it's set at a summer camp where one morning a camp counselor wakes up and one of the campers is missing. But she's not any camper. She is 14-year-old Barbara Van Leer, so she's the daughter of the family that owns the camp.
Of course she is.
Of course she is. But what's even more unsettling is she's not the first Van Leer child to go missing. So 14 years earlier, her older brother also vanished from the camp. And so as police are investigating Barbara's disappearance, a lot of long buried secrets are uncovered. Some about the camp, some about the family, and some about the working class community that is kind of caught in the orbit of what's going on. And the author uses a lot of characters and timelines to tell this story of loss and loyalty, kind of the complex legacy of a family that's haunted by their past.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I could chat with you all day long, but we are just about out of time. So if people want more information from the Springfield Greene County Library, how do they get that?
Thelibrary.org.
My favorite website in the world, and I stand by that. Morgan, so good to see you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
see
for
you
being
too.
here. Yes.